As I continue my conversations with Bruce Lipton, we get into areas of longevity and purpose, and really the fact that we can look at ourselves as either being a victim of life or having agency, that we can choose the environments we live in, and as a result, we can determine our own fate.
My research conflicted with what I was teaching. And I thought, I have to teach according to curriculum. Curriculum says I have to teach genes control life. I know this is not true. And I realized I can't go back in the classroom because I'll be teaching the wrong thing. My option was I left the university. But I wanted to come back, get a scientific opinion about my new research. Oh, I was so excited because I started to understand how it worked. And it had to do not with the genes, but with the skin of the cell. The membrane of the cell was the brain of the cell. Just for people to understand, the skin of the human is the source of the brain of the human, same as the skin of the cell is the brain of the cell.
Bruce,
yes.
Let me interrupt you for 1 minute.
I was carried away there, Stephen. You can see that.
I love it. I love it. And you were jumping into my third question. I want to go back to my second one first, okay?
Okay.
And because I'd like us to orient in terms of getting your opinion on longevity and
longevity. That's a good thing.
And then we could fit that into your brilliant findings.
Okay. Question number 2. Question number 2.
Number 2 is what your perspective is on how and why we age and on longevity.
Okay. Well, the first thing my research revealed that the genes did not control these processes. And so people think genes control longevity. I say, no, they don't. They don't control longevity. I say one of the aspects that controls longevity is associated with our DNA. I go, what's that? The end of the DNA is, remember, the end of a DNA is a double helix. And if the helix at the end opens up so that it starts to spread apart, then enzymes will go in there and destroy the rest of the DNA. So you don't want the ends of the DNA helix to fall apart. Remember the old days with shoelaces, and they had a little plastic cap called an aglet. They got a name, aglet. And that holds the fibers together, because if the plastic cap comes off, then the fibers fray, and then you try to cat it through the hole. That's when we have problem in gym. Okay, but what happens is, to prevent our DNA from falling apart, at the end there are extensions of the DNA. They're not genes. It's just DNA molecules that don't code for anything. It's just like extra track. Okay. And I go, relevance of this track is called a telomere. I go, well, what's a telomere? It's an extension of the DNA. And I go, why do you need an extension of DNA? And the answer is this. Imagine my arm is DNA. There's an enzyme that called DNA polymerase that moves down the track like a train. And as it moves down, it leaves behind a copy of the DNA it just went over. But I said, well, what happens when it gets to the end of the track? I say, well, guess what? It cannot copy the part that it's on, because to copy it has to pass over it. But if it passes over, it's off. So I said, then what happens is when it gets to the end, it can't copy it. So the end is now shorter. The DNA is a little shorter. I say, the next time you copy the DNA, it does the same thing. Comes to the end, can't copy the end. Now the DNA is a little shorter. Every time you copy it, it gets a little shorter, the telomere. There's a point, if you run out of telomere, the next time you copy it, you're cutting into the genes. And I go, well, what's the consequence? And that is aging, depression, and disease starts when we start cutting into the gene program, okay? So the relevance is very clear, and that is this, is that telomeres allow me to copy the DNA without cutting off the end. But that led people to believe, well, then our life is determined by the length of the telomere. And this is back in the 60s. Leonard Hayflick, a scientist, tried to calculate how much length, how much you lose each time. And if you lose this much each time, how much lifespan can we have before the cells can't copy again? About 90 years. It goes, wow, isn't that it's coincidence? We live 90 years. It should be this way. So everybody thought human lifespan, about 90 years. But a woman, Elizabeth Blackburn, discovered an enzyme called, when you make an enzyme out of a protein, you add ASE. So, okay, so telomerase, it's called telomerase. Telomerase is an enzyme that makes telomeres. I said, what do you mean? If you activate this enzyme, you can increase the length. I said, well, if you increase the length, then what are you doing? You're extending the lifespan, because now the cells can keep dividing before they reach the end where they start cutting into the gene. So the length of the telomere is proportional to our lifespan. But I say we came with a telomere length, but we can increase the telomere length with the enzyme. That's where the problem comes, because I say, well, there are conditions where the enzyme works, and there are conditions where the enzyme does not work. I go, well, if it doesn't work, then I can't extend the telomere, and my life is shorter. If I can extend it, then I can keep going on. I go, yeah. And I say, so what are the conditions? And it turns out this is simply the condition. How much you want to live? I go, what do you mean is that? I go, it turns out people whose lives are not supported, where they feel stressed out all the time, they feel like people who have been abused. Do they wake up and say, hey, another day to get abused? No, they wake up going, oh my God, we got to go do this again. PTSD, abuse, very bad nutrition. It says I'm not supporting the system. Lack of love. Yeah, because love it enhances our vitality. When you have love, you live longer. When you don't have love, you don't have as much vitality anymore. Okay.
It also changes our physiology.
Well, that's where the physiology turns back into the genetics at this point. Okay. And let me just add this. One of the most important things for extending our life is being in service. What does that mean? That means you have something to do. And your feedback is, if I'm in service, I have to stay here longer. I have a job. I am working. This is why people, when they retire, frequently just go down off the edge. Why? They're telling themselves, I'm done. I said, don't say that, because the biology will take that consciousness and manifest it. If the consciousness is life is struggle, life is hard, life is abusive, there's no love, I have nothing to do, you are unconsciously telling yourself, I don't need any more life. That's what you're saying.
Right.
These things inactivate the enzyme that makes the telomere. And it's the opposite things that activate it. Like what? Well, first of all, enjoying life. If you enjoy life, what you're saying is, I want more life. Okay. I have gratitude. I have happiness. I go, yeah, that means, hey, let's keep doing it. This is working. Okay. Yeah. As I said, a diet is really important, because that means we're taking care of the machine, which means I'm making an effort to keep it working beautifully. So let's keep it working.
Yeah.
Being in love. Yeah.
I just, in line with what you're saying, I just published a article in Psychology Today. The title is Purpose, Can This Be the Ultimate in Use It or Lose It?
Well, the answer is, without reading it, the answer to me is yes. Right. Yes, because purpose, and that was the one I said about service. If I have something to do, I'm not ready to finish. Right. And basically, that's a feedback system. It says, well, if I'm not ready to finish, I'm not ready to end. If I'm not ready to end, I got to make more telomere. So the enzymes work with hope, gratitude, something to look forward to. Love means, oh, I love my life. I want to enjoy this. Yeah, more life. Service. These are the things. So all of a sudden it says that our longevity is not determined at that moment. Our longevity is based on how well we can keep supporting the telomeres for growing, which then is a reflection of what we think about our lives and how much we want our lives, or how much we're tired of our lives because it's not giving us any joy or happiness or something like that.